In the endless void of space, where alien empires had danced on the edge of war and peace for eons, humanity arrived like a storm no one saw coming. They weren't the strongest or the smartest at first glance, but their fire, the unyielding spirit to fight for what mattered, made galaxies whisper in fear and awe. This is the tale of how humans shattered the illusion of eternal harmony, proving that sometimes walking away from a handshake means grabbing a sword. Dive in and see why the stars still echo with their defiance. The Galactic Council Chamber floated in the heart of the Nebula Prime Station, a massive structure of shimmering alloy and crystal that orbited a dying star. Representatives from over 100 species gathered around a holographic table, their forms varying from tentacled beings to ethereal gas clouds. At the center sat Elder Zorith, a wise old Vexian with scales that glowed like embers, guiding the discussions with a calm voice that had prevented countless wars. Humans had only joined the Council 5 cycles ago, after their exploratory fleets stumbled upon the Alliance during a routine warp jump. Captain Elena Vargas, the human delegate, stood tall in her crisp uniform, her dark hair tied back, eyes sharp as laser sights. She represented Earth and its colonies, a race known for rapid innovation, but also for their unpredictable nature. The other members eyed her with a mix of curiosity and caution. Humans were newcomers, after all, with a history of internal conflicts that made aliens uneasy. Today, the agenda was grave. Scouts had reported a new threat. The Swarm, a hive-mind collective of insectoid creatures spreading from the outer rim. They devoured planets whole, leaving barren husks in their wake. Reports showed entire systems falling silent overnight. "We must sue for peace," Zorith declared, his voice echoing through translators. The Swarm responds to logic. "We offer them resource worlds in exchange for borders." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. The avian delegate from Aviara nodded her feathered head. "Diplomacy has served us for millennia. War would shatter the balance." The gelatinous blob from Quarix pulsed in affirmation, its form rippling like water. Elena listened quietly at first, her fingers tapping the table. But as the plans unfolded, sending envoys with gifts, drawing up treaties, her expression hardened. "With all due respect," she interjected, her voice steady but firm, "this isn't negotiation. The Swarm doesn't talk. It consumes. We've analyzed the data from the fallen colonies. They're not interested in deals. They're a virus, and viruses don't sign papers." The chamber fell silent. Zorith tilted his head. "Captain Vargas, humanity's aggression is well documented in your own histories. But here we evolve beyond that. Peace is our strength." Elena leaned forward. "Peace is a tool, not an end. We've faced extinction events before, asteroids, plagues, our own wars. We survived because we fought when talking failed. If we wait, the Swarm will be at our doors." Debates raged for hours. Aliens shared stories of past successes, how the Council had tamed rogue empires through words alone. Elena countered with human examples. Ancient battles where hesitation led to ruin and triumphs born from bold action. By the end, a vote was called. The motion for peace talks passed overwhelmingly. Only the human delegation abstained. As the session adjourned, Elena gathered her team in a private alcove. Lieutenant Marco Ruiz, her second-in-command, a burly engineer with a scar across his cheek, shook his head. "They're blind, Captain. The Swarm scouts are already probing our outer colonies." "I know," Elena replied, staring at the stars through a viewport. "But we can't force them. Prepare the fleet. If the Council won't act, we will." Back on Earth, in the bustling command center of United Terran Forces, Admiral Kira Novak received Elena's encrypted message. She was a veteran of the colony wars, her silver hair and stern face marking decades of service. "The Council chooses words over weapons," the message read. "We choose survival." Kira mobilized immediately. Shipyard across the solar system hummed to life. Engineers like young prodigy Alex Chun worked around the clock, retrofitting vessels with experimental shields derived from captured alien tech. Alex, barely out of his teens, had a knack for blending human ingenuity with extraterrestrial designs. These plasma deflectors will turn their acid spits into a harmless mist, he explained to his team, wiping sweat from his brow. Meanwhile, on the frontier world of New Eden, colonists prepared defenses. Farmer-turned-militia leader Sarah Klein organized drills, teaching families to wield improvised weapons. "We've terraformed this rock from nothing," she told her group under the twin suns. "We won't let bugs take it." As days turned to weeks, the Council's envoys departed for swarm territory. Hopes were high among the aliens. But Elena, back on her ship, the Odyssey, reviewed intercepted transmissions. The swarm's responses were not words, but waves of attackers testing borders. "They're coming," she whispered to herself. One night, a distress signal pierced the silence. A council outpost vanished, its last message a scream cut short. Zorith convened an emergency session. "Patience," he urged. "The envoys will succeed." But Elena had seen enough. "No," she said, standing. "Humanity withdraws from these talks. We'll handle this our way." Gasps echoed. Zorith's scales dimmed. "You walk away from peace. We walk toward victory," Elena replied. And with that, the human delegation left the chamber. The council watched in stunned silence as the Odyssey undocked and warped away. Whispers spread. Humans were reckless, dangerous. But deep down, Zorith felt a chill. He had read human history, their resilience, their wars won against odds. If humans abandoned peace, it meant something terrible was brewing. The end, he feared, was near, not for humanity, but for the swarm and perhaps the Council's naive ways. On the Odyssey's bridge, Elena addressed her crew. "We're alone now, but that's how humans thrive. Let's show the galaxy what we're made of." Little did they know, this decision would ignite a fire that reshaped the stars. Word count, approximately 850, note, expanded to engaging length, but adjusted for response feasibility. Full 4,000 would be novel chapter size. The human fleet assembled in the shadow of Jupiter, an armada of sleek destroyers, bulky carriers, and nimble fighters. Admiral Kira and Novak commanded from the flagship Titan, her voice booming over comms. The council talks while worlds burn. "We act." Scouts reported swarm tendrils inching closer, their bioships like living nightmares, pulsating with acidic veins. The first clash came at the edge of Alpha Centauri. Captain Elena's Odyssey led a strike team. "Target their hive nodes," she ordered. Lasers sliced through the void, human weapons enhanced with reverse-engineered tech exploding chitin hulls. Lieutenant Marco Ruiz piloted a fighter, dodging spore clouds that could dissolve metal. "These bugs are tough, but predictable," he grunted, unleashing torpedoes that burrowed into a swarm vessel, detonating from within. Cheers erupted as it shattered. Back on Earth, Alex Chen's innovations proved vital. His drone swarms, tiny bots mimicking bees, infiltrated swarm ships, disrupting their hive mind. "It's like hacking a brain," Alex said, monitoring from a lab, his fingers flying over holograms. On New Eden, Sarah Klein's militia held a ground assault. Swarm drones landed, skittering horrors with mandibles dripping venom. Sarah fired her rifle, modified with plasma rounds. "For our homes," she yelled. Colonists fought fiercely, using terrain traps, hidden pits filled with incendiary gel that ignited on contact. The battle raged for days. Humans adapted quickly, learning swarm patterns. Where aliens would retreat, humans pressed on. A turning point came when the Titan unleashed a prototype weapon, the Nova Cannon, a beam that superheated swarm biology, boiling them alive. News reached the council. Zorith watched holographic feeds in horror. "They fight like demons," a delegate muttered. The avian from Aviara clacked her beak. "Perhaps we were wrong." Elena, bloodied but unbowed, sent a message to the council. "The swarm retreats from our borders. Join us or stay out." But the swarm regrouped, launching a massive counterattack toward Seoul. Kira rallied the fleet. "This is our stand." Fighters weaved through enemy formations, human pilots pulling maneuvers that defied physics. Marco evaded a massive tendril, planting charges on a Queen ship. Explosion after explosion lit the darkness. Alex's drones hacked deeper, sowing chaos in the hive mind. Voices of confusion echoed in swarm communications, something alien races had never achieved. On the ground, Sarah's team rescued trapped allies, their bonds forging unbreakable unity. "Humans don't break," she said, patching a wound. As the swarm faltered, the council debated intervention. Aid them. Submerged. Zorith hesitated, but the evidence was clear. Humans were winning where peace had failed. The battle climaxed with the Titan facing the swarm's apex predator, a colossal beast ship. Kira fired the Nova cannon point blank, vaporizing it. The hive mind shattered, remnants fleeing into the void. "Victorious, umanstud die." Elena reflected on the bridge. "We walked away to save everyone." The council, humbled, extended an olive branch. But humans had proven their way worked. The galaxy shifted, respecting humanity's fierce resolve. Word count, approximately 650, expanded engagingly. The aftermath rippled across the stars. Human colonies buzzed with reconstruction. Engineers like Alex Chun celebrated as heroes. He tinkered with new tech, blending swarm remnants into shields stronger than before. "We turn enemies into tools," he told apprentices, inspiring a new generation. Admiral Kira Novak addressed the United Terran Assembly on Earth. "We didn't seek war, but we ended it. The Council learns from us now." Delegates arrived, Zorith among them, his scales dull with humility. "Your method's effective," he admitted to Elena in a private meeting. "We were complacent." Elena nodded. "Peace is earned, not given. Join our alliance on equal terms." The Council reformed, incorporating human strategies. Joint fleets patrolled, with human commanders leading drills. Marco Ruiz trandali pailets, teaching evasive tactics. "Feel the ship, don't just fly it," he said, forging unlikely friendships. On New Eden, Sarah Klein planted new crops over battle scars. "Life from death," she mused, watching children play where drones once fell. Communities grew stronger, sharing stories of valor. But shadows lingered. Rogue swarm fragments hid in nebulae, plotting revenge. Scouts reported strange signals. Elena, promoted to High Commander, prepared. Vigilance is key. A new threat emerged. The Void Walkers, energy beings from another dimension, drawn by the chaos. They manipulated gravity, crushing ships like tin. The Council panicked, but humans adapted. Alex developed anti-grav fields, countering their pulls. "Science bends to will," he declared. In a skirmish, Marco's squadron tested the tech, pulling Void Walkers into black holes of their own making. "Gotcha," he laughed over comms. Sarah's ground teams faced portal incursions, using EMP bursts to disrupt energy forms. "Fight smart," she commanded. Kira coordinated from Titan, her experience guiding alliances. "Together, we're unstoppable." The Void Walkers retreated, impressed by human tenacity. Whispers spread. Humans were the galaxy's guardians. Elena stood on a balcony overlooking Earth, stars above. "We walk from peace to forge a better one." The Council thrived under this new era, but all new. Humanity's spark lit the way. Word count, approximately 550, kept fresh and engaging. Years passed, and the galaxy flourished under the renewed Council, with humans at its core. Elena Vargas, now a legendary figure, mentored young leaders. "Remember, strength isn't in arms alone, but in hearts," she taught. Alex Chen's lab became a hub of innovation, creating warp drives that have travel times, connecting distant worlds. "Exploration binds us," he said, launching probes into uncharted space. Marco Ruiz retired to a colony, but couldn't stay idle. He started an academy for pilots, blending human guts with alien grace. Students from all species trained, breaking barriers. Sarah Klein became governor of New Eden, turning it into a model world. Agriculture boomed, exporting food to starving systems. From survivors to providers, she proudly stated. But peace was tested again. A coalition of disgruntled empires, jealous of human rise, plotted uprising. They amassed fleets in secret, aiming to dismantle the council. Intelligence reached Elena. Old grudges die hard, she sighed, rallying forces. The war erupted in the core systems. Human-led fleets clashed with rebels. Kira, emeritus admiral, advised from afar. Hit their supply lines. Battles were fierce. Marco returned to the cockpit, leading charges. For the future, he roared, outmaneuvering superior numbers. Alex's inventions turned tides, cloaking devices that hid entire armadas. Invisibility wins wars, he quipped. On planetary fronts, Sarah coordinated defenses, her militia evolving into elite guards. We protect all, she vowed. The climax came at the rebel stronghold. Elena commanded a daring assault, infiltrating with a small team. Face to face with the leader, a hulking brute from Gorath, she offered terms. Surrender, or end. He laughed, but human resolve broke him. The coalition crumbled. Victory solidified humanity's place. The council honored them, erecting monuments. Zorath, in his final days, confided, "You saved us from ourselves." As stars wheeled on, humans explored further, discovering new allies and wonders. Their story became legend. The day they walked from peace, they ushered in an age of true strength. The end was near, for weakness, not for hope. In the vast darkness of space, where stars burned like distant campfires, the Galactic Council had kept peace for thousands of years. Different alien species sat together in a huge round chamber on Nebula Prime Station. They talked, made deals, and solved problems without fighting. The Council believed that words were stronger than weapons. Everyone agreed that war was the old way, something primitive races did long ago. Then, humans arrived. They came through a sudden warp gate, a small fleet of ships that looked rough compared to the smooth, perfect designs of other races. The humans were not tall or graceful. They were not covered in shining scales or glowing energy. They were just people from a blue planet called Earth, people who had fought each other for most of their history and somehow still survived. The Council welcomed them carefully. Humans were new, curious, and full of questions. They learned fast. They built things quickly. They laughed easily and argued loudly. After 5 short years, the Council gave them a seat at the big table. Captain Elena Vargas became the human representative. She was 38 years old, with short black hair, sharp brown eyes, and a calm voice that could turn hard when needed. She stood straight in her simple gray uniform and listened more than she spoke. But when she did speak, everyone paid attention. On that particular day, the chamber felt heavier than usual. A new danger had appeared in the outer rim. Scouts called it the Swarm. It was not one creature or one army. It was millions of insect-like beings connected by a single mind. They moved like a flood. They landed on planets, ate everything alive, turned the soil to dust, and moved on. Whole systems had gone silent. No messages. No survivors. Just empty space where cities once stood. Elder Zorath, the oldest member of the council, called the meeting. He was a Vexian, tall, and thin with red scales that glowed softly when he was calm. Today his scales were dim. He floated above his seat on gentle anti-gravity pads and spoke in a slow, deep voice. "We face a grave threat," he said. "The swarm grows stronger every day. But we must remember our way. We will send envoys. We will offer them worlds rich in minerals. We will draw a clear border. They will accept. They always have in the past." Around the huge holographic table, heads nodded. The bird-like delegate from Aviara spread her blue feathers in agreement. Diplomacy has ended every crisis for centuries. War only creates more enemies. The round, jelly-like creature from Quarix pulsed slowly. Peace is the highest form of intelligence. One by one, the representatives spoke in favor of talks. They shared old stories of how the council once stopped a war between two powerful empires just by sitting down and listening. They showed maps of past treaties that worked perfectly. The mood in the chamber felt hopeful, almost proud. Elena Vargas sat quietly at first. She watched the holograms of destroyed planets floating above the table. She saw the before and after images, green worlds full of life, then gray rocks with no air. Her fingers rested on the edge of the table. She did not move. When the discussion turned to who would carry the first message to the swarm, she finally spoke. With respect, she said, "This will not work." The chamber became quiet. All eyes turned to her. Zorith tilted his long head. "Captain Vargas, please explain." Elena stood up slowly. "We have studied the swarm for months. Every message they send is not words. It is attack patterns. Every colony they touch, they do not leave survivors to negotiate. They leave nothing. This is not a race that wants to talk. This is a hunger. Hunger does not sign treaties." A low murmur moved through the room. The Aviara delegate clicked her beak. "You speak of war as if it is simple. War costs lives. War breaks the balance." Elena looked straight at her. "I know what war costs. My people have paid that price many times. But sometimes the only way to stop a fire is to fight it before it reaches your house." Zorith raised one scaled hand. "Humanity is young in the council. You still carry the scars of your own violent past. We understand. But here we have moved beyond that. We choose peace because it is wiser." Elena did not raise her voice. "Peace is wise when the other side also wants peace. When the other side only wants to eat you, peace becomes surrender." The debate grew louder. Aliens from different worlds defended the old way. They said humans were too quick to fight. They pointed to Earth's history, wars over land, religion, power. They said humanity needed time to learn the Council's true strength. Elena answered every point. She spoke about asteroids that almost ended her world. She spoke about diseases that killed millions until humans invented cures. She spoke about times when talking failed and only action saved them. She did not shout. She did not insult anyone. But her words were clear and steady like stones dropped into still water. Hours passed. The holographic lights dimmed as the station moved through the nebulous colors. Finally, Zorith called for a vote. The motion passed. 93 species voted for peace talks. Only the human seat stayed silent. After the vote, the chamber slowly emptied. Representatives floated, walked, or crawled toward the exits. Some looked at Elena with pity. Others looked with anger. Zorith stayed behind. He drifted closer to her. "Captain, I hope you understand. We do this for all life, including yours." Elena met his glowing eyes. "I do understand, Elder. That is why we cannot wait." She turned and walked out. In a private corridor outside the chamber, her team waited. Lieutenant Marco Ruiz stood with arms crossed. He was big, with a thick beard and a scar that ran from his left eye to his jaw. He had fought in the last human colony war. He trusted Elena completely. "They voted for talks," Marco said. It was not a question. Elena nodded. "They think words will stop the swarm." Marco gave a short laugh. "They've never seen a real swarm of locusts back on Earth. Words don't stop those either." Beside Marco stood Dr. Lena Patel, the chief scientist. She was small, with quick hands and bright eyes behind thin glasses. She carried a tablet full of data. "The swarm is growing faster than the council admits," she said quietly. "If we wait for envoys, it will be too late for our outer colonies." Elena looked at both of them. "Then we don't wait." They walked together toward the docking bay where the human ship Odyssey waited. It was not the largest ship in the fleet, but it was fast and strong. Its hull was covered in small dents and burn marks from past missions. Humans did not hide their scars. They wore them. Inside the ship, the crew was already preparing. Engineers checked engines. Gunners tested weapons. Pilots ran flight simulations. Everyone moved with purpose. No one wasted time. Elena went straight to the bridge. She stood in front of the main screen and looked at the stars. Then, She turned to her people. The council has chosen their path, she said. We choose ours. We will defend our colonies. We will fight the swarm. And if the council will not stand with us, we will stand alone. A low cheer rose from the crew. It was not loud. It was the sound of people who had made up their minds. Marco stepped forward. Orders, Captain. Send word to Admiral Novak on Earth, Elena said. Tell her the council is sending envoys. Tell her we are not. Tell her to ready the fleet. Dr. Patel added, we should warn the frontier worlds too. New Eden, Harmony, all the outer ones. They need to start building defenses now. Elena agreed. Do it. Quietly. No panique. Just preparation. As the Odyssey pulled away from Nebula Prime, the station's lights reflected on its hull. Inside the council chamber, Zorith watched the ship leave on a small screen. His scales had gone completely dark. He turned to his aide, a young Vexian named Kalia. They're walking away, he said softly. Kalia looked worried. Will they start a war, Elder? Zorith stared at the fading dot of the Odyssey. No, they will end one. But I fear what comes after. Far away, on Earth, Admiral Kira Novak received the message. She was in the main command center under the Rocky Mountains. The room was large, filled with screens and people working quietly. Kira was 62, with silver hair cut short, and a face that showed every hard decision she had ever made. She read Elena's report twice. Then she stood up. Alert all shipyards, she ordered. Full production. Priority 1. A young officer looked up. Ma'am, the council will see this as aggression. Kira's voice was calm. The swarm is the aggression. We are the response. Across the solar system, factories came alive. On Mars, workers loaded fresh armor plates. On Luna, engineers tested new railguns. In the asteroid belt, miners sent tons of metal to the shipyards. Everyone worked with focus. No one complained. They knew what was coming. On the small colony world of New Eden, Sarah Klein received the warning. She was a farmer, 45 years old, with rough hands and a strong back. She had come to New Eden 20 years ago to grow food for her family. Now she stood in the town square, reading the message on her wrist pad. She looked around at the green fields, the wooden houses, the children playing near the school. Then, she walked to the community hall. She spoke to the gathered people. The swarm is coming. The big council wants to talk. We are not waiting for their talk. We're going to fight. People looked at each other. Some were afraid. Most were angry. No one wanted to lose their home. Sarah continued. We have tools. We have guns. We have each other. That is enough. That night, the people of New Eden started to prepare. They dug trenches. They built walls. They practiced with rifles. They turned tractors into armored vehicles. They worked until the twin suns rose again. Back in space, the Odyssey moved toward the frontier. Elena stood on the bridge, watching the stars slide past. Marco came beside her. You think the council will ever understand? Elena did not answer right away. She thought about Zoritha's dim scales, the fear in his eyes. They will understand, she said finally, when there is nothing left to talk about. And somewhere in the black between stars, the swarm moved forward, hungry, endless, unstoppable. The day humans walked away from peace had begun. The Odyssey jumped through the last warp point and came out near the edge of human space. Stars looked sharper here, colder. The ship slowed to normal speed. On the bridge, Captain Elena Vargas stood with her hands behind her back. She watched the main screen show the distant lights of New Eden Colony. It was the first world in line if the swarm kept moving inward. Lieutenant Marco Ruiz sat at the tactical station. His fingers moved fast over the controls. He checked sensors again and again. Nothing yet. No squadrons cheaps. But the quiet felt wrong, like the air before a big storm. Elena spoke without turning her head. Open a channel to Admiral Novak. The communications officer nodded. A few seconds later, Admiral Kira Novak's face appeared on the screen. She looked tired but calm. Behind her, people worked in the command center on Earth. Lights flashed on screens. Captain Vargas, Kira said. Report. The council voted for talks, Elena answered. Envoys left 2 days ago. We are on our own. Kira gave a small nod. like she had expected this. Fleet is mobilizing. First battle group will reach you in 72 hours. Until then, you hold the line. Elena looked straight at the Admiral. We will hold it. The screen went dark. Elena turned to her crew. Everyone to stations. Full alert. We start patrols now. The ship came alive. Alarms sounded softly, not loud enough to scare, just enough to wake everyone up. Crew members ran to their posts. Engineers checked power levels. Gunners loaded fresh rounds. Pilots climbed into fighters. Marco stood up. Permission to lead the first scout flight, Captain. Elena looked at him. She saw the fire in his eyes. She trusted that fire. Go. Take 4 fighters. Stay close. Look for signs. Anything moving that should not be moving. Marco saluted and left the bridge. Minutes later, 4 small fighters launched from the Odyssey's base. They flew out like arrows into the dark. On New Eden, Sarah Klein stood in the middle of the main field. The twin suns were high. The wheat moved like golden waves in the wind. But today no one worked the fields. Everyone gathered around her. Sarah raised her voice so the back rows could hear. The message from Captain Vargas is clear. The swarm is coming this way. The big council wants to talk to them. We do not have time for talk. A young man near the front spoke up. His name was Tomas. He was 22 and had never left New Eden. What we do, Sarah? We are farmers. Sarah looked at him. We are people who want to live. That is enough. We have guns from the old armory. We have tools. We have machines. We will use all of them. She pointed to the hills around the town. We dig trenches there. We build walls from the rock we mine. We make traps. We train every day. No one sits and waits. People nodded slowly. Some looked scared. Others looked angry. Anger was good. It kept fear away. Sarah continued. We start now. Families with children go to the shelters and prepare food. Everyone else, follow me. They worked through the afternoon heat. Men and women drove heavy machines to cut stone. Others dug with shovels until machines could take over. Children carried water and tools. Old people told stories of the first landing on New Eden, how they built everything from nothing. The stories made people remember they were strong. By evening, the first line of defenses looked rough but real. Tall walls of packed dirt and metal plates. Hidden pits with sharp metal spikes at the bottom. Barrels of homemade fire bombs ready to roll down the hills. Sarah wiped sweat from her face. She looked at the sunset. The twin suns turned the sky red. She thought about her 2 daughters sleeping in the shelter. She would die before she let anything touch them. In space, Marco's fighter group flew in tight formation. They scanned the empty area between New Eden and the next system. Sensors showed nothing at first. Then, something changed. Contact, one pilot said over the radio. Small signature. Bearing 040. Marco checked his screen. A faint blip. Too small for a full swarm ship. Maybe a scout drone. He felt his heart beat faster. Stay sharp, he said. We go closer. Weapons hot. The 4 fighters turned toward the signal. As they got near, the blip grew. It was not one drone. It was 5. Small, black, insect-shaped things with glowing green eyes. They moved fast like spiders on water. Engage, Marco ordered. The fighters opened fire. Blue plasma bolts shot out. 2 drones exploded right away. Green acid sprayed into space. The other 3 turned and came straight at the humans. Marco rolled his fighter hard to the left. A drone missed him by meters. He fired again. The drone burst into pieces. The last 2 split apart, trying to surround the group. The pilots flew like they had practiced 1,000 times. They covered each other. One pilot took a hit. Acid burned part of his wing. He kept flying. He shot down the last drone. When it was over, the space around them was full of small green clouds and broken pieces. Marco opened a channel to the Odyssey. Captain, we found scouts. 5 of them. All down. But they were probing. They are testing us. Elena's voice came back steady. Good work. Return to base. We have company coming. On the bridge of the Odyssey, Elena watched the battle feed. She saw how fast her pilots moved, how they worked together. She felt proud. Humans did not fight like machines. They fought like people who refused to lose. Dr. Lena Patel walked onto the bridge with a tablet in her hand. She looked worried. I have been analyzing the drone remains from the feed. The swarm is learning. These scouts had better sensors than the ones we saw before. They are adapting. Elena nodded. Then we adapt faster. That night, the first battle group arrived. 10 human warships jumped in around New Eden. The flagship was the Titan, a huge carrier with guns that could crack moons. Admiral Kira Novak was not on it yet. She was still on Earth, organizing more ships. But her second-in-command, Captain Reyes, took charge. Reyes met Elena on the Odyssey. He was older, with gray in his beard. He shook her hand hard. "We are here," he said. "The Council envoys reached swarm space 3 hours ago. No answer yet. But we have reports of attacks on 2 more systems. The swarm is not waiting." Elena showed him the map on the big screen. Red dots marked where swarm ships had been seen. The dots moved closer every hour. "We set up a defense line here," she said, pointing. "New Eden is the center. We hold it. If we lose this world, the swarm gets a foothold in our space." Reyes looked at the map for a long time. "We will hold it." The next days passed in a rush. Ships took positions. Fighters flew constant patrols. On the ground, Sarah's people finished their defenses. They added more traps. They trained with real bullets now, not practice ones. The sound of guns echoed across the fields every morning. One morning, Sarah stood on the highest wall. She looked out at the empty plains. The wind was cold. She felt something in her stomach. Not fear exactly. Something bigger. Then the alarm sounded. From space, Marco's voice came over the radio. "Multiple contacts. Swarm ships. Dozens. They're coming fast." Elena stood on the bridge. She watched the screen fill with red dots. The swarm fleet looked like a black cloud with legs. Ships shaped like giant beetles. Smaller drones flew around them like flies. "Battle stations," she said. Alarms screamed. Red lights flashed. Crew ran to their places. The swarm came straight toward New Eden. No warning. No message. Just hunger. The human ships opened fire first. Railguns shot long streaks of metal at high speed. Plasma cannons sent balls of blue fire. Swarm ships took hits. Some broke apart, but more came. On the ground, Sarah heard the booms in the sky. She saw flashes like lightning that never stopped. She turned to her people. "They are here. Hold the line. For our homes. For our children." The first swarm landing pods fell like black rain. They hit the ground hard. Dirt flew up. From the pods came the creatures. Tall as houses. Covered in hard shells. Legs like knives. Mouths full of teeth that dripped green acid. Sarah raised her rifle. It was old but strong. She had added a plasma core herself. She aimed at the closest creature. "Fire," she shouted. The colonists opened up. Bullets flew. Plasma bolts burned holes in shells. Creatures fell. Others kept coming. A big one charged the wall. Sarah rolled a firebomb. It exploded under the creature. Flames climbed up its legs. It screamed a high, terrible sound. Then it fell. But more pods landed. More creatures poured out. In space, the battle grew bigger. The Titan took a direct hit. Its shields held, but barely. Captain Reyes gave orders without pause. "Redirect power to forward guns. Target the largest ship." Elena flew her own fighter now. She had left the bridge to Marco. She needed to be in the fight. She wove between swarm drones. She fired. She dodged acid clouds. She saw a human fighter explode. She felt the pain in her chest. But she kept going. She found the swarm queen ship. It was huge. It sat in the middle of the fleet like a heart. Small ships protected it. Elena spoke into her radio. "All fighters on me. We take the queen." Pilots answered one by one. They formed up behind her. They flew straight at the monster. Swarm drones tried to stop them. Human pilots fought through. Some died. Others kept flying. Elena got close. She locked her missiles. "For Earth," she whispered. She fired. The missiles hit. The queen ship shook. A huge hole opened in its side. Acid poured out. The ship started to break. The swarm felt it. The hive mind screamed. All the creatures on the ground stopped for 1 second. Then they attacked harder. Sarah saw it happen. The creatures went crazy. They climbed the walls. They broke through in places. She fought hand to hand now. She used her knife. She used her fists. Blood covered her face. Not all of it was hers. A creature grabbed her leg. She shot in the face. It let go. She looked up. The sky was full of fire. Human ships still fought. Swarm ships still died. Then, the Queen's ship exploded. A white light filled space. The remaining swarm ships stopped moving right. Some turned and ran. Others just floated, lost. The ground battle slowed. The creatures looked confused. They fought slower. Humans pushed back. Sarah climbed a broken wall. She raised her rifle high. "We did it," she shouted. People cheered. Tired voices. Hurt voices. But alive voices. In space, Elena's fighter returned to the Odyssey. She climbed out. Her suit was burned. Her hands shook. Marco met her. "You crazy woman. You took the Queen." Elena smiled for the first time in days. "We took the Queen." The battle was not over. Small fights continued. But the big push was broken. The swarm retreated. Admiral Kira and Novak's voice came over the fleet channel. "Good work. All ships, stand down from full alert. Repair crews, begin work. We hold this line." Elena stood on the bridge again. She looked at New Eden below. Smoke rose from the fields. But the walls still stood. People still walked. She thought about the council. Their envoys. Their talks. She spoke softly, mostly to herself. They will hear about this. Far away, on Nebula Prime, Elder Zorith watched the battle reports. His scales were almost black now. He turned to his aide. The humans fought alone, and they won. The aide said nothing. Zorith looked at the stars. The day they walked away, it was the day we started to follow. The swarm had tasted human fire. It would not forget, and the galaxy would never be the same. The smoke still rose from the fields of New Eden when the human fleet began repairs. Twisted metal floated around the planet like broken bones. Ships that had taken hits moved slowly toward the repair yards that had been set up in orbit. Crews worked in spacesuits, welding plates, replacing burned-out engines. No one rested long. Everyone knew the swarm would come back. Captain Elena Vargas stood on the bridge of the Odyssey. Her left arm was in a sling. A piece of flying metal had cut her during the fighter run. She ignored the pain. She looked at the main screen. It showed the planet below. Green patches still remained among the black scars. People moved on the ground. They rebuilt. That was what humans did. Lieutenant Marco Ruiz Guogtin. His face had new bruises. His flight suit was torn at the shoulder. He carried 2 cups of strong coffee. He handed one to Elena. "You look like you need this more than sleep," he said. Elena took the cup. She sipped. It was hot and bitter. "Just right. The Admiral wants a full report," Marco continued. "She is on her way here. The Titan will arrive in 6 hours." Elena nodded. "Good. We need to plan the next step." The swarm did not die. They retreated. That means they're thinking. Dr. Lena Patel entered the bridge. She carried a data pad. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep. She had spent the last 2 days studying pieces of swarm ships that had been collected. "I have news," she said. "The Queen we destroyed was not the only one. The hive mind is spread out. There are at least 3 more major queens. One is moving toward the old council border. The other 2 are regrouping deeper in their territory." Elena set the coffee down. "So the council will feel it soon." Lena nodded. Their envoys never came back. "We intercepted the last transmission. It was screams. Then nothing." Marco gave a short laugh without humor. Their peace talks ended quick. Elena looked out the viewport. Stars looked peaceful, but she knew better. "We cannot wait for them to ask for help. We go on the attack. We find the queens. We end this." The Titan arrived exactly on time. It was bigger than anything else in the fleet. Its hull shone silver even after battle. Admiral Kira Novak transferred to the Odyssey by shuttle. She walked onto the bridge with steady steps. Her uniform was perfect. Her face showed no tiredness. She looked around at the crew. Then, she spoke to Elena. "You did well, Captain. New Eden stands because of you." Elena stood straight despite the pain in her arm. "We all did it, Admiral. Together." Kira turned to the big map table. Red and blue lights showed the current situation. Swarm forces in yellow. Human forces in blue. Show me the queens, she said. Lena brought up the data. 3 yellow pulsing dots appeared deep in swarm space. Kira studied them. We hit the closest one first, the one near the council border. If we destroy it, we buy time. And we show the council what real action looks like. Elena agreed. We need more ships. The fleet is damaged. Kira smiled a little. Reinforcements are coming. 3 more battle groups. They will arrive in 48 hours. Until then, we move what we have. The planning took hours. They decided on a fast strike. Hit hard. Hit fast. Get out. No long battles. No mercy. On New Eden, Sarah Klein walked through the damaged town. Houses had holes in walls. Fields were burned. But people were already planting new seeds in the good soil. Children ran and laughed. Life went on. She stopped at the community hall. Inside, people cleaned weapons. Others made more firebombs. A group of young ones listened to an old man tell how he fought in the first swarm wave. Sarah spoke to them. We held once. We will hold again. But next time we do more than hold. We help take the fight to them. A girl no older than 12 looked up. How do we fight in space, Sarah? Sarah knelt down. We do not all go to space. Some of us stay here and make things. Food, weapons, medicine. That is fighting too. Everyone has a part. The girl nodded seriously. Sarah stood up. She felt something warm in her chest. Pride. These people were hers. She would keep them safe. Back in space, the fleet gathered. The Odyssey led a strike force of 12 ships. They included fast destroyers and heavy cruisers. Fighters loaded with fresh missiles. Drones ready to confuse enemy sensors. Elena stood in the briefing room. The walls showed maps and plans. Crew leaders sat around the table. We jumping close, she said. We target the Queen's ship. We use the new armor-piercing rounds that Dr. Patel designed. They go through the shell and explode inside. One good hit on the core, and the Queen dies. The hive mind breaks for that group. A young pilot raised his hand. What if they have guards? Elena looked at him. They will. We fight through them. Marco will lead the fighter screen. He knows how to clear a path. Marco Nadith. We will make it look easy. Everyone laughed a little. It was nervous laughter, but it helped. The jump came at dawn ship time. The fleet vanished from normal space. They came out in a flash of light, deep in swarm territory. Alarm screamed right away. Contacts everywhere, the tactical officer shouted. Swarm ships turned toward them. Hundreds, maybe thousands. They moved like a living wall. Elena did not hesitate. Full speed ahead. Fighters launch. All ships fire at will. The battle started fast. Human ships shot first. Railguns punched holes in swarm hulls. Plasma burned through weak spots. Swarm acid hit shields. Some shields failed. Ships took damage. Marco led his fighters out. They flew in tight groups. They dodged acid sprays. They shot down drones. They opened a path for the bigger ships. Elena watched from the bridge. She saw Marco's fighter take a hit. His wings smoked. He kept flying. Marco, pull back, she ordered. His voice came back rough. Not yet, Captain. I see the Queen. On the main screen, the Queen's ship appeared. It was bigger than anything they had fought before. It looked like a mountain with legs. Its shell was thick and black. Smaller ships guarded it like bees around a hive. Elena spoke to the fleet. All heavy ships, target the Queen. Give it everything. The cruisers and destroyers turned. They fired together. Beams and missiles hit the Queen. Chunks of shell flew off. Acid poured out. The Queen fought back. It sent waves of drones. It shot acid that melted armor. One destroyer lost its engines. It drifted helpless. Dr. Lena worked fast on the bridge. She sent new commands to the drones. I am jamming their signals. The hive mind is confused. They are slower now. It worked. Swarm movements became messy. Human ships pushed closer. Marco flew straight at the Queen. He fired his last missiles. They hit a weak spot. A big explosion opened a hole. Now, Elena shouted. The Odyssey fired its main gun. A long beam of white energy went straight into the hole. It burned deep inside. The Queen shook. Its legs curled. A terrible sound came through the sensors, like a million insects dying at once. The Queen exploded. Pieces flew in all directions. The smaller ships stopped fighting. They floated. Lost. The human fleet cheered. Voices filled the radio. Elena let out a long breath. Good work. All ships, prepare to jump out. They did not stay. They jumped away before more swarm could arrive. They came back to New Eden space. Damaged. Tired. But alive. Admiral Kira waited on the Titan. She opened a channel to the whole fleet. You struck the heart, she said. One queen down. 2 to go. The galaxy is watching. Elena smiled. Her arm hurt more now. But it was a good hurt. On Nebula Prime, Elder Zorith sat in the council chamber. The room was quiet. Representatives from many worlds looked at the big hologram in the center. It showed the battle. They had watched it live through long-range sensors. The avian delegate spoke first. They destroyed a queen. Alone. The jelly creature from Quarix pulsed slowly. We sent envoys. They sent ships. Zorith's scales were pale. He spoke softly. We were wrong. Peace without strength is nothing. A young delegate stood up. We must ask the humans for help. Murmurs filled the room. Zorith raised his hand. We will do more than ask. We will join them. On their terms. The vote was quick. Everyone said yes. A message was sent to Admiral Novak. It was simple. We were blind. Now we see. We stand with you. On the Odyssey, Elena received the message. She read it twice. She looked at Marco and Lena. They want to fight with us, she said. Marco grinned. About time. Elena looked out at the stars. Then let us finish this. The fleet grew. Alien ships arrived. Vexian cruisers with glowing shields. Aviara fighters that moved like birds. Quarix support ships that healed damaged hulls. Humans taught them. Humans led them. Sarah Klein on New Eden received supplies from alien worlds. Food, medicine, tools. She sent back thank you messages. And fresh vegetables. The war changed. It was no longer humans alone. They hunted the next queen. Then the last one. Each battle was hard. Each victory cost lives. But they won. In the final fight, Elena stood on the bridge again. The last queen was cornered. She gave the order. The combined fleet fired as one. The queen died. The swarm broke. What remained fled to dark corners of space. They would not return soon. After the last battle, Elena stood on the surface of New Eden. The twin suns shone. Fields were green again. Sarah walked up to her. You came back. Elena looked at the woman who had held the ground. We all came back. Because of people like you. Sarah smiled. And now the council follows us. Elena nodded. They learned. Like we all do. Zorith came down in a shuttle. He walked to them. His scales glowed bright again. He bowed a little. We owe you everything. Elena shook his hand. No, that's just a new start. The galaxy changed that day. Humans had walked away from old peace. They had made a stronger one. The stars were safer. And the story of how it happened would be told for a very long time. The days after the final Swarm Queen felt strange to everyone. Space was quiet. Too quiet. The black between stars no longer carried the hum of endless insect wings. Human ships and alien ships floated side by side in the old swarm territories. They cleaned up the broken hulls. They collected samples. They watched for any sign that the enemy might return. But nothing came. Captain Elena Vargas stood on the observation deck of the Odyssey. The deck had a wide, clear wall that showed the full view of space. She looked at the stars. Her arm was out of the sling now. A thin scar ran across her forearm. She touched it sometimes. It reminded her she was still alive. Lieutenant Marco Ruiz walked up beside her. He carried no coffee this time. His face looked older. The scar on his cheek seemed deeper. We did it, he said quietly. Elena nodded. We did. Marco looked at her. But it does not feel finished. She turned to him. It never does. Not when you fight for everything. They stood in silence for a long time. The ship moved slowly through the debris field. Small lights from repair teams danced like fireflies. Down on New Eden, Sarah Klein walked through the main street. The town looked different now. New houses rose where old ones had burned. Fresh paint covered the walls. Gardens grew again. Children played in the fields without fear. But Sarah still carried her rifle on her shoulder. She would carry it for the rest of her life. People greeted her as she passed. "Morning, Governor." She had not asked for the title. It had come anyway. She did not refuse it. She stopped at the new community center. It was bigger than the old one. Inside, people from different worlds worked together. A Vexi engineer helped build stronger walls. An Aviara pilot taught young humans how to fly small scout ships. A Korix healer mixed medicines from alien plants and earth herbs. Sarah walked to the back room. There she found young Tomas. He was no longer just a farmer boy. Now he led a team that trained new fighters. He saw her and smiled. "Governor, we have a new class starting today. 20 kids. They want to learn how to defend the colony." Sarah put her hand on his shoulder. "Teach them well, but teach them why first, not just how." Tomas nodded. "We fight so we can live, not the other way around." Sarah left the center and went to the high hill outside town. She sat on the grass. The twin suns warmed her face. She thought about the day the swarm came, the screams, the fire, the blood. Then she thought about today, the laughter, the building, the hope. She whispered to the wind, "We earned this." Far away on Nebula Prime, Elder Zorith called a full session of the council. The chamber was full. More species had joined since the war. Some came because they were grateful. Some came because they were afraid of being left behind. Zorith floated to the center. His scales glowed bright red again. He looked at the faces around him. Bird people, jelly beings, scaled ones, gas clouds, even a few humans who had come to observe. He spoke in a clear voice. "The old council is gone. It died with the envoys. What stands here now is new. We must build it right." A Vexian delegate stood. "We followed the humans. We fought with them. We won because of them. I'm moved that we make the new alliance permanent, and that humans lead the defense forces." Murmurs spread. Some nodded. Some looked unsure. An Aviara delegate spoke next. Her feathers ruffled. "Lead? Humans are young. They are quick to fight." Zorith raised his hand. "They are quick to fight when they must. They are also quick to stop when the danger is over. They rebuilt worlds they did not have to rebuild. They shared their food with our starving colonies. They taught our pilots. They listened to our ideas. That is leadership." The room grew quiet. A human observer stood. It was not Elena. It was a younger officer. He spoke simply. "We do not want to rule. We want to stand together. Equal. Strong. Ready." The vote came. Every hand, wing, tentacle, and glow rose in favor. The new Galactic Alliance was born. Its first rule was simple. When words fail, action follows. And humans would always have a voice at the table. Months passed. Years passed. Elena Vargas retired from active command. She did not want to, but her body needed rest. She moved to New Eden. She bought a small house near the fields. She helped Sarah with the gardens. She taught children stories of the old wars. Not to scare them, to show them what courage looked like. Marco Ruiz stayed in space longer. He trained new fighter pilots. He flew one last mission to the edge of known space. Then he came home too. He opened a small repair shop on New Eden. He fixed machines by day. He told jokes by night. People loved his jokes. Dr. Lena Patel became the head of a new science academy. It stood on Earth. Students came from every world. They studied swarm biology. They studied human weapons. They studied peace. They mixed them all together. They made things no one had dreamed of before. Stronger shields, faster ships, medicines that healed almost anything. Admiral Kira Novak stepped down too. She lived quietly on Mars. She watched the sun set over red dunes. She wrote letters to old friends. She smiled when she thought of Elena. She had been right to trust her. Sarah Klein remained governor for many years. She never stopped working. She built schools. She built hospitals. She built bridges between worlds. When she grew old, she passed the title to Tomas. She told him one thing before she left office. Never forget the day we stood on the wall. That day made us who we are. One evening, Elena and Sarah sat on the porch of Elena's house. The twin suns were setting. The sky turned orange and pink. A soft wind moved the wheat. Elena looked at Sarah. Do you ever think about what would have happened if we had waited for the council? Sarah laughed quietly. All the time. We would not be here. Our children would not play free. The stars would be darker. Elena nodded. We walked away from their piece and found a better one. Sarah reached over and took Elena's hand. We walked away together. That is what mattered. They sat in silence. The stars came out one by one. Somewhere far away, a new ship launched from Earth. It carried explorers. It carried hope. It carried the human spirit. The galaxy remembered. Children on distant worlds learned the story in school. They learned about the day humans walked away from the council table. They learned how one small fleet stood against a flood of hunger. They learned how farmers became warriors, how pilots became heroes, how leaders became friends. They learned that peace is not given. It is built, sometimes with words, sometimes with fire, but always with heart. Years later, a young Vexian child asked his teacher a question. Why do we call it the day of walking away? The teacher smiled. His scales glowed softly. Because that day, humans showed us the truth. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from a lie and walk toward what is real. The child thought about that. Then he looked up at the stars. He felt something warm inside. Pride, hope, strength. The end of the swarm was not the end of the story. It was the beginning. New threats would come, new dangers, new choices. But humans would be ready because they had learned the hardest lesson of all. When the time comes to fight for what you love, you do not wait for permission. You stand up, you fight, and you never walk away from your own people. The stars kept shining. The worlds kept turning. And somewhere on a quiet porch under twin suns, two old friends sat together. They did not speak. They did not need to. They had already said everything that mattered. The day humans walked away from peace had changed everything. And the galaxy was better for it. The years rolled on like quiet waves after the swarm was broken. The new galactic alliance grew strong. Ships from every world flew together under one flag. The flag showed a simple design. A blue circle for Earth, stars around it for all the others. In the center, a hand holding a sword that turned into an olive branch halfway down. Humans had suggested the idea. Everyone agreed it felt right. Captain Elena Vargas, now just Elena to most people, lived in her small house on New Eden. She woke early every day. She made tea the old Earth way, strong and black. Then, she walked to the community fields. She helped plant. She helped harvest. Her hands were rough now, not from weapons, from soil and sun. Children knew her face. They called her Aunt Elena. They asked for stories. She told them the true ones. About the day the council chamber felt too small. About the first swarm scout that fell to Marco's guns. About Sarah standing on the wall with fire in her eyes. She never made the stories bigger than they were. She let the truth speak. One morning, a little boy named Rian sat on the ground beside her. He was 6. His skin was dark like his mother's. His eyes were bright green like his father's. He held a small wooden ship he had carved himself. Aunt Elena, he said, did you really fly into the Queen's ship alone? Elena smiled. She wiped dirt from her hands. Not alone. Marco flew with me. And many others. We all flew together. Rian looked at his toy ship. I want to fly one day. Like you. Elena put her hand on his head. Then learn everything. Engines. Stars. People. The best pilots know more than just how to fight. They know why they fight. Rian nodded. He ran off to show his friends the ship. Elena watched him go. She felt something warm in her chest. It was not pride. It was peace. Lieutenant Marco Ruiz, now Marco to the whole colony, ran the repair yard on the edge of town. His shop smelled of oil and hot metal. Young people from all over the Alliance came to learn from him. Humans, Vexians, Aviara, even a few Quarics who floated in special tanks. He taught them with his hands. He showed them how to fix a warp coil, how to patch a hull breach, how to make a fighter dance in the dark. He never raised his voice. He just did the work. And they watched. And they learned. One afternoon, an Aviara girl named Lyra came to him. Her feathers were soft blue. She was shy. She wanted to learn fighter tactics. Marco gave her a wrench. First you fix things, he said. Then you fly them. Broken ships do not win battles. Lyra worked hard. She stayed late. She asked questions. Marco answered everyone. After many months, she flew her first solo run. Marco watched from the ground. The small scout ship moved like it had wings of its own. When she landed, she ran to him. "Thank you, teacher." Marco shook his head. "Thank yourself. You did the work." Lina simidit. Her beak clicked softly. It was her way of laughing. Dr. Lena Patel lived on Earth now. She ran the biggest science center in the Alliance. It sat on a hill overlooking the old Indian Ocean. The building was glass and steel. Inside, minds from every corner of space worked side by side. Lena wore simple clothes. White coat. No fancy taitas. She walked the halls every day. She talked to young scientists. She listened more than she spoke. One day a team showed her something new. They had taken swarm shell pieces. They had mixed them with human alloys. The result was a material that could take plasma fire and not melt. It was light. It was strong. It could change ships forever. Lena looked at the sample. She touched it. It felt cool. Solid. "You did this?" she asked the lead scientist. A young human woman named Aisha. Aisha nodded. "We used your old notes from the war. The ones you wrote on the Odyssey." Lena smiled. "Then it is not mine. It is ours." She ordered the materials sent to every shipyard. Soon new ships rolled out. They were faster, tougher, safer. They carried the name Unity Class. Everyone knew why. Admiral Kira Novak lived on a small farm on Mars. Red dust covered everything. She did not mind. She grew potatoes in greenhouses. She watched the sun rise over craters. She wrote books, not big history books, small ones, stories for children, about courage, about choices, about walking away when you must. People came to visit her, old soldiers, young leaders. She made them tea. She listened. She told them one thing every time. Power is not in winning every fight. Power is in knowing when to fight and when to build. They left with full hearts. Sarah Klein grew old gracefully. Her hair turned white. Her steps slowed, but her eyes stayed sharp. She stepped down as governor when Tomas was ready. She moved to a small house near the river. She planted flowers. Red ones, blue ones, yellow ones, colors from Earth. Young leaders came to her for advice. She gave it freely. She never told them what to do. She asked them questions. Hard questions. They left thinking. That was enough. One day Elena came to visit. They sat by the river. Fish jumped. Water moved slow. Sarah looked at Elena. "Do you miss it?" "The bridge. The stars. The fight." Elena thought for a moment. "Sometimes. But I miss it the way you miss a storm after it passes. You're glad it is gone. But you remember how alive it made you feel." Sarah nodded. "I feel the same. I miss the wall. The sound of guns. The fear. Because after the fear came the victory. And the quiet after was sweeter." They watched the water. No more words were needed. Time moved forward. New generations rose. They had never seen the swarm. They knew it only from books and stories. They flew ships that crossed galaxies in days. They spoke languages that mixed human words with alien clicks and hums. They lived on worlds their grandparents could only dream of. But they knew the story. In schools, they learned about the day of walking away. Teachers showed old videos. The council chamber, Elena's face on the screen. The swarm queens exploding in white fire. The moment when Zoratha's scales went dark. Children asked questions. Why do humans walk away? Because peace without teeth is just waiting to be eaten. Was it scary? Yes. But fear is part of being alive. Did we win alone? No. We won because we stood first. Then others stood with us. The story became more than history. It became a lesson, a guide, a fire that burned quiet in every heart. 100 years after the last queen fell, a new threat appeared. Not insects this time. Something colder. Machines from a dead star system. They had no hunger. Only orders. They moved in perfect lines. They destroyed without anger. Without mercy. The Alliance gathered. Ships filled the space around Nebula Prime. Humans led the fleet. But now the captains were not just humans. A Vexian woman commanded the flagship. An Aviara pilot led the fighters. A Quarix healer kept the crew strong. They met in the big chamber, the same one where Elena had once stood. The new leader, Captain Mira-chan spoke. She was Elena's great-granddaughter. She had the same sharp eyes, the same calm voice. We face machines that do not feel. They do not talk. They only destroy. We cannot reason with them. We must stop them. The room was quiet. Everyone remembered the old story. Mira continued. We do not wait for permission. We do not hope for words. We act. Together. No one argued. The fleet moved out. They fought in deep space. They fought smart. They used everything they had learned. Human fire. Vexian shields. Aviara speed. Quark's healing. The machines fell. One by one. The Alliance stood unbroken. When it was over, Mira stood on the bridge. She looked at the stars. She thought of the woman in the old stories. The one who walked away first. Thank you, great-grandmother, she whispered. Back on New Eden, Elena's house was still there. Flowers grew around it. A small plaque sat by the door. It read simply, Here lived Elena Vargas. She walked away so he could walk forward. Children played in the yard. They laughed. They ran. They dreamed of stars. And somewhere in the quiet fields, under twin suns that never changed, the story lived on. Not as legend, as truth. The truth that said, when the moment comes, stand up, fight, and never be afraid to walk away from what is easy if it means protecting what is right. The galaxy turned. The stars watched. And humanity, small and stubborn and full of fire, kept walking forward. Always forward.